This was the moment that kind of sealed the deal for me on who the traitors could be in Akudama Drive. I was pretty sure about Courier and Swindler. Those are my two guesses. I mean, last week, Courier could have shot the kill. He didn't. That kind of leads me to believe that he could be on the executioner side. Swindler just seemed to be a little too common to make it out. I honestly feel like after this episode and just the way especially Swindler was behaving, I feel like she's probably coming from like the information bureau side, something like that. I don't think she was necessarily supposed to be a part of this mission, but she did get wrapped up, but I don't think she's just some commoner as it was made out to be in episode 1, especially considering how much she was sticking up for those kids. You can claim it's just because she's a good person, but I think Doctor has the right idea of calling her out for this nice act. I think she is an information spy. I don't think she was supposed to be a part of this mission, but she got roped into it, and now she's using that to her advantage, and that nice act is eventually going to crumble piece by piece. Courier, I feel like I would be shocked if he's not a traitor. I know he does say he only kills when he's paid to do so, so you could argue the reason the executioners weren't killed last week, he shot them in unfatal ways. You can say that's because of that, but at the same time, I don't think anyone in their right mind who is, they have people trying to kill them, they would only shoot to wound, not to kill. I feel like that moral is going to play factor into being an executioner, and it's a big act because Courier is going to lead them to their doom. I know there's obviously a lot of possibilities. There could be 0 traitors in this group, but I feel like that's what's going on, especially with these children's programs and how each week they're slowly revealing more world and character history. This week talking about how pretty much everything that you can think of is pretty much made in this one facility, and they just so happened to show Courier's bike. Yes, obviously he would have technology. I mean, they all would have technology, even if they weren't traitors, but it just kind of feels to me that they're slowly laying out those breadcrumbs, and I'm really excited to see where they're actually going to lead when we do get to that door and we open it and see the truth for what it is. I will say, though, this episode is really kicking it into high gear in terms of the narrative. Up until now, you can probably argue it's a very fun show, but there hasn't been a lot of focus into a big story. There is the uncertainty of why Black Cat wanted to have this mission in the first place, but it was more action-packed, adrenaline-pumping, comedy. You have Brawler, you have, of course, Hoodlum. You got a lot of funny moments, you got a lot of action-packed moments, but there hasn't been a lot of focus in terms of the actual narrative. But episode 5 is really giving me the hope that this story is pretty complex, all things considered. This was an episode that had no action. It was all story and character focus. It was them having the time to ask the questions, to say what's going to happen. You have Brawler, someone who doesn't even care about $1 billion. All he wants to do is fight the people who actually made him scared for his life. Something that's never happened. You, of course, get the comfy scenes where, you have Hoodlum being like, oh, you don't need me, bro. Of course, he's like, no, bro, come along. And he's getting all embarrassed because Hoodlum's absolutely useless. He can't do shit. He just lies his way. And so in a lot of ways, you could consider him to be a swindler. It honestly feels that way. But it's very interesting because you have these kids who honestly seem like kids. They actually are terrified when adults confront them. When Doctor was kind of shaking them down saying, hey, you gotta start telling us information. Money doesn't matter in the slightest. They're offering to pay double the amount of money. I don't necessarily think they have money in their bank account. I feel like they just hack and steal money from banks. I feel like that's how they're getting their money, and that's why they can easily increase, or they just have a fund that is pretty much bottomless or is in the trillions or somehow. I'm not exactly sure. I'm wondering if they're royalty. I'm wondering if they come from a pretty noble lineage, or if it is just they're very, very dangerous and they're used for experimentation. Girl has a whistle that can just blow them away, this little flute that she's playing. The boy seemingly has insane hacking abilities. I mean, you don't control a robotic cat and get as much funds as you need to pay the best people in the business to get you out of this cargo. It just feels to me that they have very innocent minds, but they are children at the end of the day, but they also seemingly are dangerous, if not profitable, for whoever wants them or is fearing of them. It's something that definitely gets the momentum going, but also is putting a wedge between the characters. Up until now, they've pretty much been holding hands. There's this level of harmony in order to get the cargo. Now that the cargo is there and you realize you're not transferring a volt, you're kind of moving children around. It does start to put a wedge. Doctor is the biggest wedge. She very much is questioning what this is, and she firmly believes Swindler is not someone to trust. I feel like the alliances are kind of at this point. You have Cutthroat, who very much loves Swindler. Cutthroat is obviously a possibility for a traitor, don't get me wrong. It feels like Doctor's kind of on her own. She doesn't really trust anyone, is fine killing anyone. I mean, she probably doesn't have much fear of dying because honestly, she can repair pretty much any damage done to her. Courier seems to be on his own, but also it feels like Swindler's trying to swindle him into kind of an alliance, and I think they may not necessarily know if they both are a form of traitor. I don't think they know they are, but they also kind of feel like they're naturally bonding because it feels like both of them don't belong in the situation. You have obviously Hoodlum and Brawler. Hoodlum will go to anyone who can protect him, but it does feel like that's kind of the relationship, the bromance brewing. And it's interesting to see because it feels like we're getting closer and closer to this group dissolving, even though they're all trapped by these colors, except for Hacker, who kind of abandoned the mission. It feels to me that we're about to see the group implode before the third act kicks in, if they are going that direction, because the first 4 episodes felt like Act 1, feels like we're entering Act 2, and if that is the case, by the time we get to episode, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's going to be in there. I feel like everything is going to implode and we're going to see a lot of separation, especially considering if they're already saying that the colors are hackable and you can remove them. It says to me that the colors aren't going to be the binding force of this operation for the entire way through. I really do like Hacker though in this episode. Something I would honestly say up until now, Hacker has had the least personality. I mean, he had a lot of personality last week and it was a good indicator. I don't know if he's going to be popping back, but the idea of him actually abandoning the mission, actually hacking it, and really taking actions into his own hands. Not just saying, oh, I'm a hacker, I'm going to free you guys. He's doing things for his own reasons here. And it actually says to me that he might have a bigger importance than I was originally thinking he would have. And I'm hoping that's the case because what I want to see from these characters is everyone become more than just their initial personality. And right now, after 5 episodes, it feels to me that pretty much everyone other than maybe Hoodlum has started to evolve, as well as maybe Cutthroat at this point. Cutthroat and Hoodlum are still what we see at episode 1 is what we have at episode 5, but there still is potential for them to become a lot more. I expect Hoodlum is either going to get Brawler killed, or he's going to get himself killed because he's going to take the stand, or he's going to be a traitor. I do feel like Hoodlum's going to become something truly remarkable by the end, and Cutthroat, I feel like if you mess that up, you gotta be holding your head down in shame. There's no way you mess up Cutthroat, so I'm pretty confident in his character becoming something pretty interesting down the line, more than just his initial bloodthirsty personality who eats marshmallows and wants to dip them in blood. With that said though, the whole technology of this series is remarkable. The idea that you can basically program it up to 50 items, you can't have soups, but this little container, you can have whatever food you want. That's actually genius. It's something that I would have thought about if they didn't bring it up, but once they did, it's something like, oh, you really touched upon something that could be a plot hole. You were in a safe. How the hell were you surviving? Oh, you have a device that can just make you any food you want. And it was kind of cute seeing how they both were like, oh, we're hungry, but there's no desire. And then you have Swindler kind of being like a big mom. But it really does give you the indicator that she's playing up that role more than it's her natural instinct. It does feel like she's more than meets the eye, and I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to be the biggest betrayal to these kids that they've ever seen. Great episode overall. I think this series is really picking up narratively. I mean, action-packed, comedy-wise, character banter has always been great, but it's good to see this narrative really kick up a notch, and honestly, the sky's the limit right now for Akudama Drive. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, your theories and speculations, and where do you think it might go next week, especially with that brilliant cliffhanger? Do you think someone like Courier's going to shoot to kill, or is it still going to be shoot to just woo? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like to show your support, and hit that subscribe button if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.